Alright guys, so it's December, it's the end of the year, getting ready to start the next year. Everyone has the holidays on their mind, whether it's Christmas, whatever you celebrate. We got time with family coming up. It's usually an exciting time of year. It's also a time of year that a lot of people go about setting their goals for the next year. However, I see so many people fail at actually achieving the goals that they set this time of year. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about 3-step goal setting that I promise will allow you to dominate whatever goals you're going to set this time of year, so that this time next year you actually have a smile on your face rather than being upset that you didn't achieve what you set out to do this year. So I'm going to walk you through the exact process that I use, give you questions to ask yourself, things to think about before you dial in your goals so that you're ready to crush it. So with that, let's jump straight to step number 1, and that is decide what you want. So this might sound self-explanatory, but you'd be surprised how many people have no idea where they're even heading for the next year. You often hear people talk about, they wake up and they feel like 10 years of their life passed by and they don't even know what happened. So this is the way to avoid that. You want to think about where you want to be in your life, and so you set goals accordingly to keep you on track to get there. And so this is your opportunity to think big. You want to remove your normal self-talk or your self-doubt about, oh, I don't know if I can do that, or that sounds a little unrealistic. This is your time to think about just what, if you could dream about anything that you could accomplish next year, what would that be? We'll talk about refining this a little bit more in the next step, but this is your opportunity to just document what you think would be an absolutely amazing year. So ask yourself, next December, if I'm sitting down here, what would just be freaking awesome to know that I accomplished? And you'll want to do this for 4 to maybe 5 goals. All right, so 4 to 5 areas of your life that you want to set a goal for. I really recommend not going more than 5, just because it becomes too much and it's a little overwhelming. So if you're very new to this, maybe pick 1 or 2 things that you really want to focus on, but no more than 5. And examples that I use for different areas are goals related to your health, your wealth, your relationships, and either your business or professional goals that you have if you are in a career. Alright, so once you have all this documented and you feel like you have a good idea of what an amazing year looks like for you, let's go to step number 2, which is identifying weekly lead measures. Identify weekly lead measures. Alright, so let's talk about what that means. So in the business or marketing communities, you've probably often heard lead versus lag indicators or lead versus lag measures. And this is where I see most people go wrong when they go about setting goals. Most people set goals according to lag measures. So let's talk about what that actually even means. So a lag measure is something that you measure based on the outcome of something that you did. All right, so let's talk about healthy goals. I'm sure you can relate to the goal where, people want to lose 10 pounds or we want a 6-pack. All right, and those are lag measures because losing the weight or actually having that 6-pack start to pop out, those are things that happen because of a number of other things that you have to do as inputs. Or said differently, the lead indicators are the working out, the getting up early, going to the gym, eating right, controlling your calories. Those are the lead indicators that will eventually get you to losing the pounds or having that 6-pack. So you want to focus on the lead indicators rather than the lag indicators. So in this point of the goal setting, we're going to look at what you set, and it's okay if you wrote down to lose 10 pounds, but now we're going to convert that into a lead measure, and then we're going to break that down into something we can track on a weekly basis. So let's continue with the health example. All right, so if we set in step number 1 that we want to lose 50 pounds next year, okay, now let's start to look at what things have to happen in order for that to come true, or what leading indicators can we start to control. So for example, let's say we're going to exercise 4 times a week and we're going to eat less than 2,000 calories a day throughout the week. So those are both examples of lead indicators that we can track and measure, and that's what you want. That's the goal of step number 2. All right, a lot of my followers are into real estate. So another example here, if your goal is to buy your first investment property next year, let's break that down into what do we have to do in order to buy a property. Maybe it's analyzing deals every week. Maybe it's an offer every week. Those are things that have to happen in order to get you the deal. Another important thing with lead indicators and why you want to track those is that you can actually control them. You could do everything right. You could analyze 100 deals a week, submit 10 offers, and at the end of the day, you don't control whether or not they get accepted. So you don't want to set the goal of buying a property and come next December, you never got one and you feel upset, depressed that you're never going to hit these goals because you had no control over it. But if you focus on the lead indicators and say, okay, I said I was going to analyze 5 deals a week and submit an offer every week, and I did that throughout the whole year, you can still leave that year on a high note and say, I did everything in my control in order to hit that goal, but I'm not going to go buy a bad deal just to check the box and say I accomplished that. So that's another reason we focus on lead indicators, and another example of how you start to refine that in step number 2. All right, so the big important question that you want to ask yourself before you move on to step 3, and you've already identified your weekly lead measures. This is an important step. You want to ask yourself, am I willing to become the person who's going to commit to these lead indicators throughout the whole year? All right, so this question is important because often to achieve our goals, we have to become the next version of ourselves. And just coming up with these lead indicators saying, yep, I'm going to exercise 50 times a week. I mean, this is where you start to bring reality into play. Like, am I willing to do those things to become that next version of myself? A good example of this, you often hear people starting diets out in January and they're so extreme. Like my wife and I did Whole30 last year and it was a joke. Like once February hit, we were diving back into Chipotle and chips and beer. So that's an example of the too extreme, or the diet phenomenon. And we weren't willing to become the people who would commit to doing Whole30 for life. So you really want to make sure you're clear on these goals. All right, another example here is when people look at like The Rock or Arnold Schwarzenegger and they say, oh, I wish I had a body like that. That's okay to wish, but if you truly want to make that a goal, you have to be willing to put in the work required to get there. So the lead indicators of working out multiple times a day, eating perfectly. And if you're not, that's okay, but you just want clarity here, and you have to be kind of willing to commit to doing what it takes to get to your goals. And that's why step 2 is so important, and this is where most people get it wrong and look at themselves in the mirror next December and find out their six-pack just isn't popping out. All right, so step number 3 might be the most important, and step number 3 is finding someone to hold you accountable. All right, it's easy to let ourselves off the hook. We're tired, we're sick, we worked hard, we put in a good day's effort, I didn't sleep good. You can come up with a million excuses of why you can't do the lead indicators that we talked about in step 2. But if you have someone that's holding you accountable, then you are 100 times less likely to let yourself off the hook and give yourself a break here. And it's also important to think about who this person is that's going to be holding you accountable. I highly recommend you don't choose your spouse. It never ends up good when you say, oh, honey, I want you to hold me accountable and make sure I get up and go to the gym. And then when they come in and say, hey, get out of bed. You told me you were going to get up and go work out 3 times this week and you're still drooling on your pillow, right? That typically leads to some other problems that may not be healthy for your maybe relationship goals that you set also back in step 2. So the question you want to ask yourself when thinking about who's going to hold you accountable is, who would be disappointed in me if I didn't follow through, or who would feel like I let them down if I didn't accomplish what I told them I was going to do? All right, that's typically a good way to think about it, because you want someone that kind of calls you on the carpet, right? You don't want a good buddy who's going to be like, oh, that's all right. You want someone who's like, man, like I'm kind of upset with you. You told me you were going to do this. Like, why haven't you? And you keep giving me these BS excuses, right? You want somebody like that who's going to hold you accountable to make sure you get this done. All right, and once you have that person identified, this is how you actually get them to hold you accountable. You say, hey, these are my goals for next year. This is what I'm going to do, and I really look up to you in this area because of, fill in the blank. And you say, it would mean a lot to me if you would kind of counsel me along this journey. I'm not looking for a lot of your time. Make sure you make that clear. You say, I just want you to reach out and check in with me. Can you check in weekly? Either it's a text or we jump on a call for 10 minutes. Like, I don't want a lot of your time, but I want you to ask me if I'm doing the things that I'm telling you right now that I'm going to do. So number 1, you want to let them know up front, you definitely value their time. You're not looking to be a time leech on them. Number 2, you want to let them know that you really look up to them because of something they did or because of how they live their life in that specific area. And number 3, you want to let them know exactly what you're wanting from them, all right? Is it a text? Is it a 5-minute call? Is it just a check-in every so often? So once you clarify that ask, I have not been turned down, and I've not been able to tell other people down, because I mean, that's kind of an honor for them. You're looking up to them, and most successful people always have one hand up and one hand down. They're looking to learn to get better. They're also willing to bring someone else up with them. So that's my advice on accountability: finding someone, finding the right person, and allowing them to help you out here. Alright guys, so that's it. It's 3 easy steps. And no, this isn't an infomercial. I know it sounds cheesy and corny, but I promise if you do these steps, you will dominate your goals. So let's step back and look at them one more time. So step 1, we're going to decide what it is that we want. Step 2, we're going to identify weekly lead measures that we can do to track. And step 3, we're going to find someone to hold us accountable to doing the things that we said we were going to do in step 2. Alright, and I'm going to leave you with another couple tips just to help you along the way. These aren't required, but definitely don't hurt when you're going out to achieve these. Alright, and the first one is put these weekly lead measures somewhere you see them every single day. Alright, a couple examples of these are, write it on your bathroom mirror so you see it while you're brushing your teeth, or if you sit at a desk, pin it up on the wall. Somewhere that you just see them and jog your memory, keep your brain constantly thinking about what you're supposed to be doing. Another tip is tell your friends, tell everyone around you what your goals are and what you're going to do. This is along the same lines of accountability, but it spreads it out from that one specific person to all of the people around you, the people that you care about and people that care about you. This just helps when they say, hey, how's it going with X, Y, and Z, whatever goal you set in place. It gives you that additional layer of accountability. Alright, and lastly, come up with a daily ritual that allows you to interact with these lead measures. And what I mean by that is, if you're a person that journals or writes things down, get up every morning and write these things down. That kind of connects the brain and the outside world. It allows you to kind of really dial that in with your identity. If you're not a person who journals a lot like myself, I recommend doing this daily ritual via affirmations. If you're not familiar with affirmations, it's really just kind of stating it out loud to yourself and kind of proclaiming that to your identity. It's a little woo-hooey, so if you're not into that, and maybe that's not a good fit for you, but kind of just reading these things out loud of, I'm gonna do X, Y, and Z this week. Maybe say it to yourself in the shower. One flavor of this that I actually like, and I can't recall the book that I got this from, but it's a form of affirmation, but you introduce yourself to yourself. So an example would be, you're just kind of saying this out loud. You say, hey Tyler, meet Tyler. Tyler's a person who gets up every week. He works out 5 times a week. He analyzes 10 properties a week and submits an offer at the end of every week. Things like that. So you kind of build yourself up to yourself. It's kind of a weird mind game, but that actually helps, and you continue to refine who you are to yourself. And I think your self-identity is one of the most powerful things in this whole journey along achieving your goals. So guys, I hope this was helpful, and if you did get something out of this and you are going to follow this process, setting goals for the next year, drop a comment below and commit to doing something out there. That's another layer of accountability there. And if this was helpful, a simple like on there would be greatly appreciated. That kind of tells the YouTube algorithm that this video is somewhat helpful at least, and that maybe they should show it to someone else too. Alright guys, so we'll go ahead and wrap with that. Go out and have an awesome year. Go dominate your goals, live an awesome life, and have a happy new year. I'm Tyler Wehrung, and we'll catch you next time.